ready.
Oh, and we are ready.
Happening.
I'm ready. And so I'm just going to go. What's going on? Welcome to Team Trash's Trash Kast. It's our podcast. We talk about Mortal Kombat. That's the shit on the screen right now. There's other people in here with me, though. It's not a solo show. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. You first.
All right, well. All right, what's up? My name's Asvix. I've been playing MK11 on and off since release. I'm playing a lot more on now. I've been joining the Beef Set League, getting my ass whooped.
That's all right. My name's Toad Savage, regular participator in the Trash Talk Temple. Where's Mazkeen?
Yeah, I thought there was somebody else, but I guess not. They're having some technical difficulties, and I ain't got time for that shit. So this is new for you, kind sir. Give us a little bit more background on yourself. We already know about Toad, okay, and everybody already knows about me. A little bit more background about yourself. What got you started with MK11?
What got me started was well, actually, at first, my friend introduced me to MKX, and we were both shit at the game. And then when I heard MK11 was coming out, I saw the trailer. I was like, dude, I want to get that shit. That looks awesome as fuck. So I got the game like the day it came out, and when everyone gets the game, we were not the best, and it just after a while I got bored of it. But then I got back into it, and then it's a whole cycle for me. But for me, MK11, I just love the characters. I love the graphics of the game. And of course, I love the toxicity because it's hilarious to me. And of course, I like watching the tournaments and everything. I like watching the competitive things that go on.
I mean, what kind of got you interested in the competitive aspect as a known casual who's converted to Sweatlord?
For me, it's just like seeing how good someone can get at a game and just thinking, wow, one day I want to get that good. It doesn't have to be immediately, but I want to work towards getting that good eventually. And just seeing how like much they understand the game, you're just like, wow, I want to understand the game as well as these guys do. And it just pushes you to learn more about it.
Just want to be good, huh? Just want to be good. Nice. I mean, so like the inspiration for you, it seems that it is the same as for a lot of people, is that you saw, high level players and got inspired to pursue that. Was there any players specifically that you looked at that you were like, oh shit, that's my dude?
Uh, you know, I love watching like, of course he's more recent, but like, Ninja Killa, just how much he how good he is at the game is ridiculous for how young he is. And of course, I for me, another one for me has been Scar. I love watching Scar. I love
Oh
watching
yeah.
him play. And of course, he has I like watching his Kung Lao. I do remember when he played Sonya a lot. I don't know if he still does. I haven't really watched too much of him
Well,
lately.
for the most part, at that level, none of those guys are like unfamiliar with the character. Like they play all the characters. When you play the game that
Oh
much,
yeah,
you
yeah,
eventually get bored of your main. So like, I'm pretty sure he still plays Sonya,
yeah. So yeah,
or
most of us will probably play
he'll
Sonya
still beat you
now.
with Sonya.
Oh yeah, yeah, he'll still beat me with Sonya. I'm not gonna act like he doesn't remember how to play Sonya anymore. But I'd say, and another person I like watching Averk, uh, because Scorpion, and I just like when I look at him play, I'm like, I wish I was that good at hit confirming.
Right, right. And so going into the news today, did you guys hear anything interesting? Anything to call out there?
With the link you
Nothing
sent.
too interesting.
Wow.
Well, I did see that we were talking about the merger today. We were talking about how that's going to affect the next game.
Yeah.
So the thing is it going to be Injustice 3? Is my biggest question, because people are throwing out MK12 a lot. They're calling it out. They're like, is it going to be another MK12? But what is it going to be if it's MK12? Is it going to be the same game like this, or are they going to change it like MKX to MK11?
Well, I
if
mean,
that's the case.
that's kind of a loaded topic. There's like 10 things to unpack right there.
Let's do it.
First thing being the merger, or not really the merger, but the acquisition of NetherRealm Studios by someone other than Warner Brothers. I think that it's a topic that had a little bit of traction a couple months ago, and then it was kind of squashed. And NetherRealm said we're not going anywhere, and WB says nah, we're not selling them. But now there's rumors bubbling up yet again, and it's like, huh. And honestly, if a sale is still on the docket, that explains why they abandoned MK11. I think that 100% explains it. Because here's the deal. They set up Mortal Kombat 11 to be basically a game as a service. They built this game to be their Overwatch, right? A multiplayer game that goes on forever, just like we kind of all thought it would be. And if they get sold, they would no longer have the rights to work on this game. They do right now because this game is owned by Warner Brothers. They're owned by Warner Brothers, bada boom. But if they were to get bought up by like EA or, Activision or whoever, now they have to pay for a license to do more content for this game. They wouldn't own this game. And so that would explain they're trying to cut their losses and say, hey, if this shit goes down and we can't work on this shit anymore, we need to have something in action. And that's why I think the rumor is that the next game is Mortal Kombat 12. They'll probably take the MK11, right? Up, take like the skeleton, right? The online infrastructure, the crossplay, the net code, maybe some of the mechanical ideas, just some of the skeleton of MK11. Use that as a base to build an MK12 real fucking quick. Get that out as their game as a service. We can support this thing forever because we own the rights and the licensing to it. So if we get sold, we still have MK12. If we don't get sold, we still have MK12, but if we get sold, we'd have to stop all work on Injustice 3. We'd have to stop all work on Mortal Kombat 11. We don't know what we'd be allowed to work on, so may as well make it a fresh new game that nobody has any fingers in. And I think that explains a lot of that.
So you're saying the licensing and like the cost it would take to essentially buy some of the licenses to work on MK11 will outweigh them actually working on MK11?
If they would even be able to get the permission to do so. And it's, MK11, it is the newest game from NetherRealm, but it is a 2-year-old game on a last-gen console. So, like, would it be worth it to invest more resources into this old game? And then what if we don't even get that permission? What if we get bought out by some other company and we no longer get the rights? Like, they just don't give us the rights. It's not even a matter of money. We just don't get the rights. And now all our hard work is just down the drain.
That would be tragic.
They'd be sitting on DLC that they can't put out on the store that they worked on for 6 months because, we lost the rights to MK11. So that makes sense. It makes sense to me.
I never thought about it like that. That does make a lot more sense now that I hear it, like from that perspective.
Because think about it, if they're working on their next game, which they have not revealed any information on, they haven't said anything about their next game. So what I'm thinking is they're building a skeleton of a game with a couple of masks it could wear. If they go and get bought out by, or if they stay with WB, boom, put the Mortal Kombat skin on it. Where we are, Mortal Kombat 11 or Mortal Kombat 12. If we get bought out by someone else, we can use whatever else IP we get access to. Bada boom, bada bing, we've got our new game. So I think that's kind of why they haven't said anything Mortal Kombat related. And I think that's why they've been hush-hush, because they're kind of taking a wait-and-see approach like the rest of us. Like, hey, well, is this going to happen? Is this going to be a thing? And if it happens, it looks like they've got their options covered.
What I think is unfortunate about that, them needing to get the permission and everything is, and I'm not blaming, because this could have been going on 2020 as well, their merger and all that. They could have been talking about that way before we knew about it. But I feel like also with COVID and the lack of getting people into the office and stuff, just because everyone's sick, everyone's quarantining, they probably couldn't push it out fast enough, is what it sounds like, before this even came into play, where they need permission, they need the
Well, they don't
IP,
need any
everything like
permission or
that.
anything right now. It's if they get sold, they would. See, like,
Yeah,
video
yeah.
games don't just get made, they take a long time. And once you get started, once you get the ball rolling and you're doing development, and then you lose whatever project, like, basically imagine working for something for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden your boss comes in and says, yeah, everything you did, it doesn't count, throw it all away. Also, we don't have any money, because usually when that happens, that's when studios go under. So I
That's
think that's just
keep
video
going.
games. And so it seems like NetherRealm is trying to hedge their bets against that situation happening. It seems like they're trying to set themselves up. From according to these rumors, if this rumored MK12 is what they're working on and the reason why they're doing that, and it probably has code name MK12, but I mean, if they got bought out by, Activision, they could just make it a fucking, Blizzard fighter or whatever. So they're going to have this skeleton of a game that they can quickly polish up and, put out there, depending on where they end up. So that way, no matter whether they get bought out or whether they don't get bought out, they'll have something that they can throw into the market. And I mean, I say that not like they're doing it haphazardly, but something they can, put out into the market and make some money and keep the business from going under. At least if I were in charge of NetherRealm, that's what I would be doing. I'm not the CEO of anything other than this fucking made-up trash talk organization company. But if I were running NetherRealm, that's how I'd be hedging my bets and how I'd be protecting, my employees and my staff and my company and my hard work. Oh, look at that. We got a sub. Thank you, kind sir. Mr.
Well, see, and
Lupinar.
I looked it up. Now, see, here's another scale on that makes me think there's one outweighing the other here, in the sense of, if they're going to keep this, if this goes through and stuff, and they're going to keep the ball rolling on Mortal Kombat, where are they going to go with it now? I mean, not, I don't know if we're doing spoilers here or not. I mean, we're 2 years into the game. I feel like the story mode's been finished, both of them, by most of the people that view the channel. But where are they going to go with that to keep Mortal Kombat, like to go into Mortal Kombat 12?
I
That's what
mean,
I was wondering.
they could go
Because
anywhere. There's an infinite number of places. Liu Kang reset time, and then you either reset time with Liu Kang or you reset time with Shang Tsung. Or they could just say none of that happened and, like, Kronika fucking won. Or they could say, they could go in so many directions with the next game. I feel like this game ended ambiguously enough that whatever they do could be canon. It would work.
It always seems like the wrong ending, though, what is the right ending. I don't know about you guys, but I had a feeling that if they were going off more of MK11 or even into the next Mortal Kombat game, I feel like they would have expanded on the Shang Tsung part.
yeah, I feel like that would be what route they would go to, because like, what are they gonna do if you start with everything perfect? They have to find some new villain to fuck it all up again. And instead, if they go with the bad ending, they can be like, "Oh, we got Shang Tsung. Here's your villain. We don't gotta make a new one."
Dude, they have tons of villains. They could just be like, oh, well,
What about
MK11 didn't happen. Yeah, they could be like, MK11 didn't happen. When they reset the time, he reset it back to what it would have been without Kronika interfering. So this takes place right after MKX, and Onaga's the bad guy now. Like, they could totally just write MK11 out of the canon and pick up right after MKX, and it would still be canon. They'd be like, oh, no, Liu Kang, he liked the way the universe turned out. He thought he saw where it was going, and he thought it was a glorious path. So everything up to MKX happened exactly as it did. All right, boom, MK12. Like, they could do whatever the fuck they want, and it would work because of the way it ended. Like, what can they not do? Like, they could literally be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna reboot the timeline from the beginning. This is MK1, but it's like Liu Kang's MK1. You know, or no, Liu Kang liked the original timeline. So instead of the MK9 reboot timeline, Liu Kang went back and restarted the original timeline from the start because that's what Liu Kang wanted to do. Boom, MK12 is really just MK1.
But
Yeah,
what do
they
you
could
keep
do that.
Shang Tsung in his timeline? Like, because he's a traitor. He almost even flipped the whole thing around. I mean, if you pick the evil ending,
I mean, there's an
he
easy
did
way
flip it
to
around, you know.
there's an easy way to write that. Like, dude, why does God have Hitler? You know, like I don't know. It's Liu Kang's infinite plan. He sees all the timelines. He's the Time Lord. He knows all. Shang Tsung must exist in order for the timelines to not fucking turn into fucking Loki verse or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they could they could do whatever the fuck they want. They really could.
There must be good and evil to balance each other.
Yeah,
out,
you
some
know,
shit
like
that.
Liu
Some
Kang's a
shit like
monk.
that.
Yeah, like fucking there I don't think that there's any direction that they couldn't go in that wouldn't be within the canon outside of like crazy fucking aliens, you know? Like aliens just showed up and it's like but then they had the fucking alien as a guest character, so I mean, I don't know, man. Shinnok knew about the fucking xenomorph. That shit's canon.
That you know that when I first saw that was so I almost thought they were gonna put like a story mode alternate scene because of the commercial for Alien when he popped out of Baraka instead of Devora finishing him. I honestly thought we were getting a little story DLC expansion on why those
Yeah,
characters were there.
I did too. I was like when when we found out Shinnok already knew about the Xenomorph, that was like kind of mind-boggling to me. I was like, shit, are we gonna
Yeah.
get something from this? And turns out we didn't get anything.
See, man, and that would be cool if they like found a way to like put all those guest characters into the canon. Like that was to me that was the big disappointment of Aftermath. Was like, yeah, it was cool that they added the DLC to the story, but like man, I wanted to see Spawn and Terminator in this fucking Mortal Kombat story. Like, call me a nerd about that. Like, I'm like, dude, Spawn is in the game, dog. Just put him in the story. Nobody fucking cares about the canon. This shit's dumb. Give me
model.
Spawn.
Exactly, dude. Like, bro, no one cares. People just want Spawn. People will like buy the story, like the story mode for Aftermath, if it's hype enough. If Spawn is in there, that will bring the hype of the story, and they'll be like, yeah, I want to get it just because Spawn's in there.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
That
yeah, he's
badass.
already. But what I'm saying is they already have him in the game. They had the voice actor. They did so much. They did too much for this fucking character.
They built the lore around him too.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, just put him in
They
there.
did.
Just it could just be a one-off match. Like, oh yeah, on the way to Kronika's castle. Like, who's this mysterious stranger? I don't know. Let's fight. It's fighting game stories, right? You can come up with a dumbass reason why Spawn is there. Nobody fucking cares about the reason. They're just like, ooh, Spawn versus Scorpion in a cutscene. That shit was dope.
But
Yeah,
but
so let me get the
Asvix,
game.
but Asvix, to answer your question about the lore, because I heard you asked about that just a second ago. The when Spawn and Cetrion talk, I believe it's Spawn and Cetrion. Malboja is apparently a cousin of Shinnok, which implies that Shinnok's
do
one of the
remember that.
devils,
Yeah,
and
I do
NetherRealm's
remember
one of
that.
the 9 hells.
Yeah, that's like like just the fact that they put the effort into thinking that up, it's just like it feels like a waste that they didn't really progress with that. They didn't go further with that.
I feel like if Shinnok were a DLC, it'd be easier to do that too. Like if
That
Shinnok,
would be true.
do you guys remember when Shinnok was rumored to be in the game? Like some game magazine said, "Oh, Shinnok," like they were naming characters off, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we got moves like Liu Kang, Katana, Shinnok, and Reptile." Like they name dropped 2 people that aren't even in the game.
Well, some of the leaks though, there was that one leak that did have Shinnok, Melina, and Shang Tsung, and like that was the one leak that got more right than wrong. Like the only thing it got wrong was it said that
Was
the
Shinnok?
it was 3 unlockable characters that were going to be Shinnok,
Oh.
Melina, and Shang Tsung, which it ended up only being Frost. But Shang Tsung ended up being the first DLC, and then Melina was like what, the fucking 12th DLC or whatever. So like those 2 characters actually did end up in the game. The only thing that leak got wrong was Shinnok coming to the game or being in the game ever, and like the timing, you know, and how they were going to be released. But they were right about Melina and Shang Tsung being in the game. And they were right about
To-
most of the roster. They had pretty much had the launch roster correct. It didn't get anybody wrong on the launch roster.
And to put the nail in the coffin, and knowing what we do now, is they showed an image of Reptile's character model later on. Was that NetherRealm that did that? They showed a Reptile character model that was supposed to be in the game.
No, I've seen the Ermac, obviously, but NetherRealm's released like an official render of that Ermac. I think that was the only thing that I saw.
Maybe I'm getting it mixed up, but yeah,
Yeah.
we haven't seen anything for Shinnok as far as a character model or anything like that. So I think that really sealed the nail in the coffin. But will he be in the next game? Like, would he be an MK12 villain? I mean, I know we were talking about like Onaga and stuff, but Shinnok and Onaga have not seen the game. What would be the big bad of the next game?
Well, they had other big bads, like fucking Jade has that side story with the dream shit, Smoke, the prophecy of Enenra, like, dude, they could go on and on. That's not even touching on Dagon, Taven, and Blaze. That's not even touching on Natara's realm. Like, dude, they could go on and on. It's Mortal Kombat, dude. The lore is deep. If there's one thing you could shit on the story, right? The story's pretty stupid. Like, it's just it's campy, stupid action movie. That's what it's supposed to be. But the lore goes deep, man.
See, and I think it's a sensitive area. I mean, for other people that I talk to. I mean, I know here we've acknowledged the 3D era characters, but I feel like they really don't want to touch up on those. I think it's unfortunate, but I really don't think going forward they're going to go too far into the 3D characters as much as I want Tara or Havoc or seeing all those storylines together.
I think they'll do more with the 3D characters going forward. Here's the deal, man. Y'all are young, so you don't understand. Retro brings things back, and those games, they have millions of fans. There are millions, like, those games sold millions of copies. I know. I bought them day one.
Yeah.
I waited at GameStop until midnight to fucking get in and buy Mortal Kombat Deception or whatever. So, like, I know. They sold a lot. And for those people, they're going to have nostalgia for those games. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time before the 3D era is cool again and retro. It'll happen. It's just like with Street Fighter. Everybody hated Third Strike, and then eventually the people that grew up with Third Strike, now those characters are considered classics. But when Third Strike came out, everybody was like, "Where's Zangief? Who's this guy? Where's Dalsum? What's this white dude with this is stupid. Dalsum's better." So like, but now people are, they're like, "Wow, why don't they bring back Necro? He's my favorite character." Mortal Kombat's the same way. Mortal Kombat, you could go on Reddit. How many people are sitting there bitching and complaining Havoc isn't back? They know, okay?
A lot.
They were aware of the Molina
so
complaining. They are very much aware of Havoc. And you know what? Mortal Kombat, NetherRealm Studios is old enough to where people that grew up in the 3D era probably work there now. So there's probably people that love the 3D era characters in NetherRealm Studios working there. And that was their first Mortal Kombat.
That's a fair, and I feel that that's a fair assumption, because I would definitely like to see that. And Deadly Alliance is coming upon its 20th anniversary in a few years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 3 years. That game came out in 2005, I think.
That's the year I was born.
Gosh. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in 2005.
So did you catch Armageddon at all, like as a kid, like a little kid at all? Like, midway pre-NRS?
I hadn't even heard of Mortal Kombat till I was like 13. Or like, I think 10 to 13. Because like, my parents are like very much like, they didn't, like, because my cousins, they would play like GTA and shit like that. And I'd be like, "Oh, I want that game." They're like, "Nope, you won't have anything super violent." And I was just like, as a kid, I was like, "Man, that sucks." So I didn't even like hear of Mortal Kombat till I was like in the double digits.
Y'all are so
I get
fucking young.
that.
Oh my god, these kids these days.
I know,
was born in 1995.
Dude, let me fuck with you.
I'm like the 3D era.
I'm gonna fuck with you.
Cool.
No, I didn't grow up with the 3D era. The 3D era came out when I was in college.
No so shit. You grew up with like the arcade games and everything.
I'm like, y'all are some fucking children. Like when you said that, I was like, wait a minute, you were born with deception. So like 9/11 is a myth to you. Like you've only heard about that in fables. Like something that
Yeah.
something I perceived in my life that was life changing in a shocking way that I will never
Yeah,
forget.
dude.
And to you, it's just some story that may or may not have been made
Like,
up.
yeah.
Holy shit, man!
That's
Being
crazy,
old
actually.
sucks.
Yeah, I was just like, every time I hear about it, it's like I don't, I never want to wish to experience it, but like I want to know and understand what these people are talking about when they tell me about like 9/11
Deception
or
coming
anything
out.
like that.
Or Deadly Alliance.
That
He's like, I
too.
wasn't there, but
It's
I
like,
heard stories. The fans
I was
revolted.
there.
Stances?
Fans
What is a
revolted.
stance?
What is stance?
The
I have no
tragedy.
clue.
So what was your first like I mean, I guess not first Mortal Kombat game, Badger,
The.
but like
The.
when you were the
The.
the
What
the
was
Badger.
my first Mortal Kombat game? The Mortal Kombat game.
So
Mortal Kombat game.
so when you were aware of Mortal Kombat, what Mortal Kombat was the most recent to come out?
Okay, so let me put it to you this way. I've told the story on stream before. I may have even mentioned it in a podcast, but the first time I ever played a fighting game was Street Fighter 2 at a Chuck E. Cheese, and I won my first match, and it was a glorious story. I think that's up somewhere else on the stream. Not going to repeat that whole thing, but as I was walking out of that arcade at the Chuck E. Cheese to go sit down to eat pizza, I walked by a machine that was a brand new machine. I didn't know what the fuck it was, but it was fucking two Raidens fighting on a bridge. And I remember that, and everybody was kind of crowding around it because it was this hot new thing that no one had ever heard of because everybody was on Street Fighter. Street Fighter was the business. Okay, everybody played Street Fighter. And then there was this other thing. Oh, it's like Street Fighter, but it's kind of weird. And I remember seeing it, not knowing what it was, but I was all in on Street Fighter, so I just went back about my business. And then, yeah, that game ended up being Mortal Kombat. The first Mortal Kombat in the arcades, before consoles, before anybody even knew what Mortal Kombat was, before it was on the news, before we knew what fatalities were. It was just some crazy game that they added to Chuck E. Cheese that no one had ever heard of, and people said it was kind of weird, but sort of like Street Fighter.
Wow, man. That's wild.
So like
actually
that's
wild.
the initial impressions. Like a lot of people, I mean, I never really thought of this as like historical shit, but like, yeah, those were the initial impressions from somebody that was there as a kid when Mortal Kombat first came out. Everybody kind of looked at it as like, it's cool, but it's weird. It's not like Street Fighter, but it's a game like Street Fighter. People didn't know how to describe it because remember, at that time, Street Fighter 2 was revolutionary. Like, there was nothing like that before. Where you could pick multiple characters, people complain if we don't have enough characters. Back then, it was unheard of to pick more than one, right? Usually, player 2 was just your same character, but he's blue, you know? And so, Street Fighter was revolutionary. And that wasn't a genre. It was just Street Fighter. There's that game. So when Mortal Kombat came out, people hadn't really like thought of it as a genre. It was like, okay, it's kind of like Street Fighter, but it's weird. It's different. But it's Chinese people doing karate like Street Fighter. But it's different. Like you don't have different buttons and you have to push a button to block and you get a free hit at the end. Nobody even knew what fatalities were, man. When fatalities first started coming out, man, it really was like rumors. People were like, dude, I heard you could fucking kill the guy. Dude, in that game, in that Mortal Kombat, at the end when you get a free hit, dude, I heard you could kill him. He will die. You could take his head. And that was like, holy shit, when people found that out. That was when it exploded. Mortal Kombat blew up. It was like the biggest thing in the world because now people didn't know what else you could do. And then when Reptile, there was like, wait, there's more fights? Oh, how do I get more fights? Because remember, this is an arcade game. So you had to pay for every game. And so if you lost, you had to pay again. But if you won, you got to keep playing. But the game only gave you the tower number of matches. So the secret fight, it was like, wait, there's an extra fight. I could get one more fight for my money. I could play a little bit longer for free. Well, for my 1 quarter. That fucking now everybody went crazy. Everybody was playing all day, every day, trying to find every secret, every code, everything. And then, Mortal Kombat. Now we're talking about fucking 50 years later.
But I mean, a few things I took from that as well is I don't know what revision that you ended up playing first. Like, did you end up playing one of the later revisions that had Reptile popping up, or did you find, or did you end up finding Reptile like before they
No,
added
this was.
the? Well, I think it was third revision.
I remember reading about the Reptile revision in like EGM. So I remember when they added Reptile. And I remember the
That
marketing blitz for that. So like all the magazines and stuff would post all these little articles like hinting, right? Obviously NetherRealm or Midway Chicago was telling them, "Hey, we added this update." And they would talk about the update and then they'd have like blurry screenshots. And some fan believes that they have found a secret character. More at the next issue next month, that kind of shit. And that's kind of how the word about Reptile was getting out there. And that's yeah. So I remember, I don't know what revision the first revision I saw was, but I know that it was way before Reptile. It was like people didn't even know the name of the game, right? It was just like, what is that game over there? Oh, I don't know. It's weird, but it looks like Street Fighter. That was it.
The other crazy thing I took out of that was you had Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat in your Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know if you've ever been to Chuck E. Cheese, Asvix,
Oh,
but
Chuck E. Cheese in my childhood. Actually, I used to love Chuck E. Cheese, but no, they don't have any of that in there.
no,
They
it
never
like
did.
turned into.
Well, that's because
I think the last real arcade machine was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like the legit last arcade machine I've seen in Chuck E. Cheese. Otherwise, it was a whole bunch of those gambling machines.
yeah,
Yeah, the
well,
games that they make you pay those tokens for and all that.
that was because of the 2000s. So when consoles started putting out games that looked like the arcade, the whole selling point, everybody thought the selling point of arcades was graphics you couldn't get at home. Because arcade games looked better than, look at, the Mortal Kombat 1 arcade game and then look at how the Super Nintendo version looked. And it's like night and day. So that was the selling point. When consoles caught up and I could go and I can get Mortal Kombat 4 on Nintendo 64 and it looks the same as, or in the case of Soul Calibur 1, better than the arcade. So arcade owners, they thought that the golden goose had dried up. And so instead of looking for experiences you couldn't get at home, they went for the gambling games and they moved the industry in that direction. But unfortunately, that's not what made arcades popular. What made arcades popular literally was the experience you can't get at home. But it wasn't the software experience. It was the social experience you couldn't get at home. And that's what made arcades work back then. But nobody saw that until it was too late. And now there's, the arcade revival, there's Barcade, there's all these arcades popping up. But they're like a niche business now because the guys that get it are like, yo, dude, no, there's money to be made. There is a business model here. Like, arcades work. It has nothing to do with the software. It has everything to do with, I could drink at home. Why the fuck am I going to a bar? And yet bars make millions of dollars a year. But that was the 2000s, man. That's why your Chuck E. Cheese sucked. Because every Chuck E. Cheese went through that. When I grew up, Chuck E. Cheese was basically an arcade and they didn't have like a whole lot of those token machines. Most of your tokens were spent on either the little fucking rides or the arcade games. And you just played Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Pinball and fucking Metal Slug and Raiden and, arcade games. That was the Chuck E. Cheese. Like, that was literally the whole Chuck E. Cheese was just an arcade. There was a couple of token machines, right? There was skee ball, but it was like, it wasn't the whole floor. It was like they had like skee ball and like basketball and like one other game. So you guys got
holding
robbed.
on. Definitely. Because I'd spend hours on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was, like I said, the last legit arcade game I saw in there. I think I saw a few other arcade ones. That was a while ago. I think I stopped going in 2001 kind of deal. But I heard you say Soul Calibur on arcade and stuff. Did Soul Blade end up being on arcade before that or after on the PlayStation or, consoles? Because Soul Blade's the prequel.
Yeah. Soul Blade was on PS1, but it was also in the arcade. I think it was called Soul Edge in the arcade, but both of them were.
Yeah.
I think there was a version, like if you got had an arcade that had import versions, it was Soul Blade. But yeah, there was Soul Blade was in the arcades. I remember when Virtua Fighter first hit and no one had seen 3D before, and it was like, holy shit, and everybody shit on like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat when Virtua Fighter came out. Everyone was like, look, man, this shit's fake, man. You could jump. People don't jump like that. People don't have magic. Look at Virtua Fighter, dude. This shit's the real shit, dog. You have to have real karate to win. You got to know the moves. You know, like when Virtua Fighter hit, it was like a revelation. It was like, holy shit, man. There's squares and there's cubes.
Dude, and Virtua Fighter.
I mean, that's why all the games went to 3D. Like Mortal Kombat 4 ended up being 3D. The big games going around, Tekken, Soul Calibur, Virtua Fighter, Dead or Alive, you know, Bloody Roar. Like once Virtua Fighter came out, like 2D was done. Street Fighter and SNK were like the only ones still doing it, and then eventually Capcom gave up. They went with Rival Schools. That was a 3D game, and SNK went out of business. Like it was a big deal. People like look at Virtua Fighter now like it's a fucking joke old man's game, but I'm like, no, dude, that was a pretty big deal when it changed everything. It was like fighting games before Virtua Fighter and then fighting games after.
If I'm not mistaken, Virtua Fighter ended up on the Sega, and like their first, I might be thinking of a different game, but on the Sega, it seemed like before they switched to like those 3D games, like everyone was dabbling into that art style, and I think Virtua Fighter is one of them, where it was like it was 2D, but just because of how they shaded it and how they did it, they weren't working on a 3D plane, but it appeared to be 3D.
No, what they did was they did 3D models and took 2D images of 3D models and then made the 2D sprites off of it. So they would take the 3D model, pose it like it's walking, and just do like, you know, like claymation, but with a 3D model, right? So they would just pose it, take a picture, pose it, take a picture, pose it until it looked like it was walking, and then they would use those as the sprites in the game to make it look like a 3D game. It's how Donkey Kong worked. And that's how I think they did Virtua Fighter on the Sega Genesis.
I mean, it's how they did Goro in a virtual sense.
Well, yeah, Goro was claymation. Like there's a Goro like figure out there. I've seen it. It's fucked up. Like, because it's all old and they didn't think that it was going to be a big deal, so it was like sitting in someone's closet. So like he's missing like an arm and he's like all fucking, the paint's all scratched up and he looks fucking dumb. And he's like, yeah, this is the actual original Goro, man. It was sitting in my fucking garage and it rained and it was in a box and now he's fucking, now he's lime green.
I would hate that.
Something I'm wondering, I need to ask as the fucking young whippersnapper here, what the hell is Virtual Fighter? I need to ask that.
Wait, you don't know
what that?
Flying.
You don't know what Virtua Fighter is?
No,
I'm flabbergasted.
I've never heard of it.
Is a fucking Zoomer asking me a question that is Googleable.
No,
because I mean, I'm not what you would consider a Zoomer. I'm considered a fucking old fuck, and because I mean, I have my phone and I'm looking at it, and within my phone lies all those stupid answers.
So
fair enough.
Virtua Fighter is a 3D fighting game that invented 3D fighting. It was the first 3D fighting game. That's why they called it Virtua Fighter, because it looked like virtual reality.
Okay, that makes much more sense now, because I had no clue what that was.
It was,
man,
for how revolutionary it was supposed to be, right?
Man, it honestly blows my mind. I'm surprised. Like, what other fighting games are you like? Have you ever played Touch Soul Calibur or
if he's a
any
Mortal
other
Kombat
games before
player,
you were
I can
born,
tell you
Esmix?
not.
Games before I was born. I can't really think of anything that nope. I can't think of any old games that I played that like were out before I was born. My first fighting game, I'm pretty sure, was Injustice 1. I think that was my first fighting game.
Oh wow, who'd you pick? Like right off the bat, when you started up the game, who did you want to be on that one?
It's gonna sound like fucking like a cliche thing, but I love Batman, so I picked Batman.
That's all
Why
I
did I
picked.
pick Batman?
He's on the cover. Like, yeah, I played Batman.
Yeah.
I played Batman in my Batman game.
I just love Batman. He's been my favorite comic book character since the beginning of time.
Let's be honest though, like I mean, regardless of the bigger universe that the DC belongs in, like Justice, at least in Justice 1, seemed like a Batman fighting game because most of the Batman villains were in it.
Yeah,
Well, we had
true.
Batwoman in it.
Yeah,
Uh,
we got
Poison Ivy
so
was
many.
in Justice 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
Solomon
because
They-
like
Grundy,
you
all them.
can't do a fighting game with most of the DC universe. Like, how are you gonna fight the Flash? The guy can literally run through time. Like that's his
or
power.
Superman.
Yeah, like Superman. At least Superman, you could just say someone's bigger and badder, right? That worked with Doomsday. You know, it works with like whoever Superman
Yeah.
fights. It's always well he's bigger and stronger. That's how it works. But like with some of these characters, it's like how do you have a fighting game with the DC universe? Like Batman works. A fighting game with Batman works. Why? Because that's what he does. He does karate. You can't really do a
He
fighting
fights-
game with
He
Green
fights
Lantern.
people.
Yeah, like how are you
Like-
supposed to get the Orange Lantern to work as a fighting game character? It's like, well, he levels up the more greedy he gets, so you have to do moves that are negative on block, and then you have to mash on negative to fucking get a buff or some shit. How the fuck did that? How would you translate that
okay.
character to fighting game mechanics?
Okay, I need to say this. If that was a character, I'd play them just because that's a hilarious mechanic. I'd play them
Fuck yeah,
just
dude.
because that's fucking
I'm
hilarious.
saying that subconsciously, so that way NetherRealm listens to this and puts Larfleeze in fucking Injustice
Put
3.
Larfleeze in there.
We want Larfleeze, baby. Orange Lantern, motherfucker.
Bro,
Well,
love
I mean-
Larfleeze. It'd be so funny.
Dude, imagine if that was his
They-
mechanic
they-
that you have to do. The more unsafe you are, the more stronger he gets. So he has to
more
be this
damage he
greedy,
does.
mashy motherfucker, right? He's just mashing, just fucking pressing as fast as
Larfleeze
possible.
Larfleeze the ultimate new player character. Just do whatever the fuck you want.
Like he would have no mix-ups, no like damage, no setups. It's just the better you mash. The more negative you are, the stronger he gets on his next attack. So you have to mash really, really fast.
Sounds like if you're the opponent, it sounds like when you started the match, you'd pretty much start off saying, "Well, fuck me."
No, because
Like,
then
you
you
see
can
them
just
pick-
blow.
You see the pick Larfleeze, you're like, what the fuck, dude?
You just know that he's gonna be mashing on negative, like so. Fucking punish him. Just block and punish. He would be a scrub killer though, because the more he mashes, the more powerful he gets, and most of the scrubs do that anyways. And then most of the scrubs don't know how to deal with that. So like, yeah, Larfleeze would be like the Combat League meta if he played that way. He would absolutely be like the Deathstroke of that fucking game.
I do remember loving Deathstroke too. Deathstroke was fun.
Rewinding a
course.
little bit though, I really don't like how because we were talking about the Flash. This is what made me think about it. In Injustice 2, when Deadshot straight up shoots the Flash while the
Okay, yeah,
Flash
yeah,
is going max speed.
I have a bone
I-
to pick with that. Like,
I didn't like that. And well, I mean, besides that, they abandoned the whole idea of the first Injustice 1 story where they had the pills where they could take hits from like Superman.
no,
I mean,
but
in the comics,
That's because they were
Alfred
permanent.
took a pill.
I think, hon, here's what I think.
Oh, they were
happened.
permanent?
Yeah, they were permanent. So like in Injustice 2, they didn't have to take pills again because they still had the power in that universe.
Oh,
I
see,
did like
I didn't
that
get
idea,
that.
though. I did like that idea though. Like, you have to come up with a reason to fight fucking Superman. So let's just make a kryptonite pill.
Yeah, like that's
Now, be honest with me though. Did you guys ever think from Injustice 1, like give or take a few years, they were going to return to the idea of MK versus DC after the first,
no, I don't.
3D MK versus DC?
I don't think they'll ever do another MK versus DC. I think with guest characters that work, they will. You know,
Mhm.
like Scorpion. Like obviously the colorful ninjas and Raiden with his magic powers, they work in Injustice.
Yeah.
Joker works
I
in
don't-
Mortal Kombat. But the thing is, the reason why they won't is because MK versus DC did not work. Like the people that love DC, they just wanted to play DC characters. And the people that love MK, they didn't want MK to be watered down, right? They didn't like a lot of people that love MK, they're like, yeah, the fighting's cool, but like, dude, like these fatalities suck.
Two
Yeah, it's
words,
like,
two
how
words. 2 words. Heroic brutality.
Yeah, the MK fans hated that, and the DC fans are like, dude, I don't want to fuck with Liu Kang, man. Liu Kang can't beat fucking Shazam. How the fuck is Liu Kang gonna fight Shazam, the one guy who could beat Superman?
It's like, how are you gonna put Melina in a fucking Mortal Kombat game? I mean, not Mortal Kombat game, an Injustice game. Like, how are you gonna put her in an Injustice game? Her whole archetype is eating people.
No, they
just
have
being
fucking
bored.
Cheetah in there. She eats people. Gorilla Grodd, Grundy eats people. There's people that eat people in Injustice.
Yeah, but it's the more the
King
fact
Shark.
that like the King Shark.
Yeah, there's no way Injustice 3 doesn't have King Shark. Okay, they put
If they don't have King
Deadshot.
Shark, I'm not buying the game.
They put Deadshot in
It has to
Injustice
be
2 just
Sylvester, too.
because.
It has to be Sylvester Stallone voicing King Shark.
Yeah, like Suicide Squad wasn't even loved, and they put Deadshot in Injustice 2 because that character was kind of popular from that movie. Yeah, dude, King Shark is gonna be on the fucking cover of Injustice 3. I mean, Batman versus Superman with King Shark in the middle holding the belt up.
Smiling like a dumbass.
That needs to be a T-shirt.
Splitting someone in half in the background.
That needs to be a T-shirt. Ivan, get on it. Batman versus Superman. King Shark holding up the belt in the middle. We're getting sued, baby.
New dumb friends.
Hand. Oh wait, we can't talk about. A lot of people haven't seen the movie. We can't talk about how great it is. Oh, it's so good though. So good.
Oh, we can talk about how great
it'll blow your mind how gold it is.
Fuck.
See, that's another thing. NRS, we were talking about this in the Discord. NRS had a special thanks at the end of Suicide Squad.
Dude, they should just do a Suicide Squad fighting game, because then they can kill everybody.
Honestly.
Bro. Oh yeah,
they could kill. Dude, they could have
Fatalities.
fatalities,
They
dog.
can
We
work with
could
that.
get John Cena. Oh,
Get John Cena in the game.
I want to do it.
Dude, I'd pay a premium to have John Cena in a DC fighting game.
No, I just want to do a fatality to John Cena, man. I just want to do that, dog. Bam, 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 bam. Motherfucker. Motherfucker. You want to hold back CM Punk's push? Motherfucker, you took the belt from Daniel Bryan.
Oh my god,
What if they did do fatalities in a Suicide Squad game though? Like, you know, how Mortal Kombat, like back in the day, they had da-na-na, but then literally exclusively for John Cena, they had but like just that little and then his fatality starts.
No, and then when he does it, he walks out the entrance. Like, it just cuts to, like, kind of like how Rain goes to a carnival, right? It would just cut to a WWE entrance, and then he pops out, and the music comes out, and then he fucking or he does the 5-knuckle shuffle, and their head explodes. And then you could put in a code to where he's invisible when he does it, if you fucking know the secret code to make John Cena invisible.
Dude, that's too much, bro. We're making NRS. You better be listening to this fucking podcast, because we're coming up with like money making ideas right here.
Well,
you will make money from this.
John Cena in Mortal Kombat
thing.
sells itself.
The last thing for John Cena, though, if they don't have the intro where they were all like, "You look like you're wearing a toilet bowl," and if he doesn't say it's a beacon of freedom, I'll be disappointed.
I will be disappointed too. I will be very disappointed.
I will suck every dick out.
I will suck every dick.
I will suck every dick. No, that would be his like
For
fucking
freedom.
quote that like Harley Quinn would walk out and be like, ha ha ha, sugar, and then just John Cena would only have that one line. He just goes, I will suck all your dicks
For freedom.
I will suck your dick for freedom.
In the name
Oh,
of
my
freedom,
gentle Jesus.
I will suck your dick.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
I really hope. I really hope if you have not seen Suicide Squad,
No.
that you please forgive us. Forgive us for our trespasses against all the dicks on the beach.
Ratcatcher fighting that though. Like, would they put Ratcatcher 2 in there, or would they do the original Ratcatcher? And if so, how would they fight?
That's a good question.
I could see Ratcatcher as kind of being like a summoning character like Noob Saibot. Like, she would do a move, and like she would have rats crawling all over her body, and then like when she does a move, like the rats come out. Like if she does her hand, like, you know, to punch, then like a rat would jump out and like extend, like almost be like a little projectile. Like the rat wouldn't fly straight across the screen, but it would just come out and kind of fall down like right in front of her. So it would be like the range of a jab.
Makes sense.
Or you could do like like she has like slower moves, but they have much more range because like the rats extend her like range for her like jab or something like that.
No hitbox for the rats, essentially.
No, I would
Just
say
just low
like
spawn.
like the rats would be like a weapon extension of her character, and then I would make her a grappler. She would be like
That
a
I think that would
grappler
work.
because the whole thing in the movie was the rats like swarming you. So she would like grab you and like lay you down on the ground, and then like a wave of rats would just kind of come over you, and that would be like the grab animation. And then she would get up, like her Oki would be right next to you, so she can put you in another throw loop, and she would be a character that would just be constantly grabbing you and looping you on wake up, because again, her thing is rats, so the rats would be on the ground. So her game mechanic that would be in theme with her, character aesthetic would be keeping you on the ground where the rats can get you. And that's how
Yeah.
I'd design her.
I feel like her
That's pretty good,
projectile.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and I feel like her projectile, she'd like shoot two rats toward your face, and maybe it just has a regular hitbox on regular projectile, but then when you enhanced it, it kept them on the ground and simultaneously bit their eyes or something like that.
Oh yeah, so you could make it like you have to deal with it. Like just make it a mid or a low or something like that. Like just like if she enhances it, you got to deal with the fucking rat.
See, I wouldn't give her any ranged game. Like, I would make her completely like a very hardcore like grappler who would have like long range on her normals, because like rats would be jumping out, but they would be like falling like right in front of her. So she would have like decent range on her normals, and they'd have a disjointed hitbox because it's like a weapon. The rats, they're not her actual like appendages. But I would keep her as a strong grappler because I think the best image from the movie representative of her power as a character is at the end when that whole swarm of rats came out and started attacking Starro, right? So the rats come in,
Starro.
right? So like to me, that whole image of like get off the ground, right? So she would be not really like throwing rats at you, but like a slow moving wall of death coming towards you, and it's like, fuck, I gotta get away, I gotta run from this wall of rats coming at me. And like, so she would be like slowly inching towards you, like, dude, you're not getting away from me, and eventually I'm gonna grab you and smother you in rats.
Yeah, I think another idea for me would be like she could have like a mechanic like sort because this is like what I'm thinking of for Devora. You know how she has like the bugs that go around you, and the more bugs you have in you, it leads to the throw crushing blow.
Oh
I was
yeah.
thinking, like the more rats you have on you, you could have like either more damage, or they could have like less damage, or they take more chip or something like that. I feel like that could work. Like the more
Kind
rats
of
you
like
have on you, she does more damage, you do less damage, something like that.
that'd be a circle ability for sure, like a
Yeah,
circle.
like her trait. Yeah, I
Yeah,
could definitely
character
see that.
trait.
Yeah, I could see that.
The if they also made a Suicide Squad game and they ended up putting um the characters from the recent movie, I feel like they wouldn't do. I don't know how familiar you guys are with like some of the obscure DC stuff, but like they put Polka Dot Man in there, which was actually
Okay,
not originally called Polka Dot Man. His name was Mr. Polka Dot, and he was
Mr. Polka Dot.
actually more of a villain.
Well, everybody in the
Than
Suicide
I
Squad is a
perceive.
villain.
Right, but they
And they made it really clear that he was a
serial.
serial killer. Like, they made it clear that Polka Dot Man was a serial killer. Like, he's killed a lot of people.
Like, but he thinks they're spoiler alerts. Anyone leave now? You don't like the spoilers. He views everyone as his mom. He's absolutely nuts. Like
Oh
he is
yeah.
a crazy character. But I would think, and if you guys have the time, look up Mr. Polka Dot, because I feel like they'd put that version in there
Well,
more than they would the new version.
NetherRealm always defaults more towards the comic than the games. Because isn't Deadshot a white dude in Injustice 2? And then, like, they knew Jamie Foxx was going to be the, or not Jamie Foxx, Will Smith, right?
No,
Yeah,
for
he was
Injustice
black.
2. Yeah, he was black in Injustice 2.
Oh, he was
because
black
in
in
his,
Injustice
his
2?
Yeah, his story ending, you could see him like getting the chip thing removed from his head, and it was a black man.
Okay,
And,
well,
and I do.
I was going
What's
to
up,
say
Magic?
Zod in Injustice 1 was based on the comics. They added a movie skin, but like he didn't even fight
That
like
was
he
dope.
did in the movies.
Yeah.
He fought like he did in the comics. Like they based
Yeah,
him
like
heavily
he-
on the comics.
yeah, you don't see like freaking Zod with a gun half the time. Like that was like when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, Zod doesn't usually have a gun, or does he? So I like looked at it in the comics. I was like, oh, he's like that in the comics.
Yeah,
Kryptonite,
he's like a
or not
scientist in the
Kryptonite, but
comics. Like
Krypton.
he's not, or like not a scientist, but like a soldier. Like he uses like Krypton weapons and
Yeah,
technology. Like he doesn't actually use the Superman powers. He has them, but like he's trained to fight Krypton fighting style, so he uses Kryptonian weapons. Like, yeah, that's nothing like the movie. So, I mean, NetherRealm has always shown that they would rather, because NetherRealm, since they get to work with their own universe, right, with Injustice, they don't have to be beholden to the movies or the comics or anything. They can do whatever they want. And so they love to cherry pick Easter eggs from all throughout all of the media. You know, even though Zod was based on the comic Zod, he still had a skin for the movie, you know, so there's going to be some
yeah,
reference to all of that. So I could see them making Polka Dot Man more like the comics, but then having a skin from the movie.
Yeah. And going back to that Deadshot thought, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the New 52, like the whole DC
yeah, I
reboot.
know. Yeah, I know about the New 52.
Deadshot was not in, like, he hasn't been in DC media. I believe the last time he was, it was in like the 80s or the 70s or something like that. And Deadshot was completely different, you know, as our Bloodsport, Mr. Polka Dot, and the new ones, and King Shark, obviously. But his origins are so obscure to what they display him as now. And this is what you're talking about, Badger, with they can do whatever they want. I'm glad they went with the Deadshot of today, because the Deadshot back then, he was a magician and he fought Batman
Yeah,
in an
that
old
was
ass
him.
comic. And his trick was, he looked like a magician. He was a white dude, got the big old evil, like, I'm gonna tie you up and put you on a train track kind of look. But he never missed a shot, and he had one revolver. And all it took was Batman to destroy his revolver. So I'm glad they
Yeah.
changed
Yeah,
Deadshot
like
like
because
they
like in the
did.
comics, like Deadshot never had like a daughter or a family or anything like that.
Well, no, but
He
I
was
mean,
just
Well, that
he was
was later. That was later.
yeah, that
They
was
yeah,
much
actually did
later.
add that way
he
later.
he was changed in like the 80s is when he kind of like the what you guys consider, or what I know of, is the modern white mask with the red eye. Like I remember that being from the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, was when he started being like that. But I could be wrong, man. I'm
Yeah.
So
more
that
of a Marvel fan.
magician,
I
Marvel's
was
pretty cool.
I
I'm
don't
a
know
Like,
DC
much. I
fan.
know a
I grew
lot
up with
about
DC.
DC because I'm a general comic nerd, and like you know, I play Injustice, and you know, I like the movies and Snyderverse and all that. But like, I grew up more of a Marvel fan, so it's like, yeah, I could tell you like Wolverine's costume in 1985 or whatever, but I don't know shit about fucking Deadshot. I don't know. He's white dude with fucking, now he's black. All right, he's like Nick Fury.
I
He's
know
Nick
this
Fury.
is I know this is kind of off kilter, but imagine, okay, so based off the rumors, imagine they ended up making a Marvel fighting game. Like, and I'm not just talking about a Marvel fighting game from NRS. I'm talking about like Marvel Media too. But back in the day, I think it was the 84 is what I read, is when Marvel took over Transformers comics and stuff. Imagine if Marvel kept that. NRS made a fighting game, and then we actually had like a bigger expansion. And this is what I'm getting to. Imagine we had characters that wouldn't fit on the screen as a fighting game. I mean, we got Zangief,
It's Gold
and we
Lightan
got the
from TBC.
sumo. Yeah, like characters, or Sentinel from
No,
MVC3, but
no.
we won't talk
Gold
about
Lightan.
MVC3.
Gold Lightan changes the Gold Lightan is exact, or PDX. Look up Tatsunoko versus Capcom Giants. You'll see. That's exactly what you're talking about. A character that doesn't fit on the screen and you're basically punching his feet. Yeah, that's already been done. That was Tatsunoko. But yeah, go
What was
look
that
that
again?
up.
You said Tatsunoko.
Tatsunoko. Just type in YouTube TVC Giants Gold Lightan.
Tatsunoko versus Capcom, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh my God.
That what you're talking
These
about?
characters are huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, literal characters that, like, the tip of their head either hit the top, or, you know, straight up like their legs are on the screen.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I play a lot of fighting games. I've seen a lot of shit, man.
Wow.
I've seen a lot of shit you wouldn't understand.
I've seen things you wouldn't.
I've seen this
understand.
arcade machine before, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, in one of those classics, but I never really got, never hopped on it. That's crazy. How do you play those characters? Like
So they
now that
had
I know it's a reality.
so Tatsunoko was a 3v3 game or a 2v2 game. So it was like Marvel versus Capcom 1. It was 2v2 and the Giants didn't get a partner and because they couldn't move, all their moves had armor on them. And they ended up being very, very
shit.
cheap, and the community was kind of like split on whether or not to just ban them because like most of the tournaments ended up being because TVC had Roman cancels, but Roman canceling wasn't based on your meter; it was based on your red life. But because the Giants didn't have a partner, they didn't really need to regenerate their red life, so they could spend all their red life on Roman cancels, and their giant characters bigger than the screen, so they just push heavy punch, Roman cancel, heavy punch, Roman cancel, heavy punch, Roman cancel, and you just die. And they filled the
So
whole
essentially,
screen,
you're fighting a
and
boss fight.
they were armored. So if you
Yeah,
tried to
that's
hit
what
them
it
out
sounds
of
like.
their heavy punch, the whole thing about them was it was supposed to be a race to just hit them as fast as possible and like kind of dodge their attacks. And they were going to be armoring. So like your whole strategy was to like jump and because their attacks like were very specific. Like their kick was like on the bottom of the screen. Their punch was on the top of the screen. So like you would just, if you thought they were going to punch, you wouldn't jump and you would hit them and they would armor through it, but their move would whiff. And if you thought they were going to kick, you would jump and start hitting them, air comboing on their head, and their kick would whiff because it would be under you. But like with the Roman cancel, they would whiff and then Roman cancel and then hit you with the actual move and then Roman cancel, move, Roman cancel into it was stupid.
Oh,
And they were armored,
that
so
sounds-
like yeah, they
That
got
sounds like too much.
so the community
so
kind
much.
of did not like them. There were characters that could fight them, but like basically the tier list and the thing is Gold Lightan wasn't even good. It was PDX. So Gold Lightan was the rushdown giant and PDX was the zoner giant. So imagine a zoner that was like that. So he's zoning you from full
Stoner
screen,
giant.
and then if you tried to get in, all of his normals were armored that he could Roman cancel into a full combo to knock you full screen and start zoning you again. And he was a giant
Sounds
character
like
that
hell.
like you couldn't fucking hit. You couldn't dodge any of his like yeah. PDX like basically tournaments like were just PDX versus PDX. Like they're PDX and then like zero. There were like a couple of characters who could fight PDX, but it was not fun and very, very long turtley matches. So yes,
Just two giants zoning each
your
other with
suggestion
armor.
was tried and it did not work. And that's kind of the takeaway is it sounds cool, but when
Yeah.
someone actually did it, it was like, yeah, this kind of sucks. This really sucks. And so people still like, bring that up. They're like, man, wouldn't it be cool to have like a kaiju in a fighting game? And it's like, no, trust me, dude.
they tried it.
It was
It's-
not
it's like-
good.
It's like they're just gonna have armor because then people are gonna like. How are you gonna combo a freaking Godzilla if it's in a fighting game?
He bounces literally not even an inch off the air, and you have to like time it all that based off that. That'd be terrible.
That'd be so like you just have to dedicate a combo specifically for Godzilla.
Oh
That'd
my
be
god, that'd be
something.
like a 2-hit, like 120 combo if we're talking like MK11 gravity terms. But I am seeing Mazkeen, like his mic's moving a little bit. Mazkeen, you here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I've
kept
been
saying
here.
that. Oh shit!
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just like I keep seeing his mic. I don't think I'm hearing him.
Wait, he was here the whole time?
Dude,
That's what I'm
why don't
saying.
you- why don't
Like,
you- why
for
don't you-
like a good 30 minutes.
Say hi,
Yeah, I had to
Mazakeen.
update my driver. That was all.
All right.
So Mazkeen, what's up, dude?
Never mind, man. No much.
What do you think about Mortal Kombat 12? We not even talking about. We've like gone all around in a
weren't even-
circle.
Yeah, we've
But
gone
that's
all
where we
around to the
started.
topic.
That was supposed to be the top. What do you think about Mortal Kombat 12?
Um, for me, honestly, I think Mortal Kombat 12 is something that I would most likely wanted to have happen, even though through rumors and stuff, we'd have like a Marvel game or Injustice. I personally just like Mortal Kombat, but anything NRS pushes out, I'll play either or, whether it's bad or not. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool, but at the same time, take it with a grain of salt, depending on wherever they have going on behind the scenes. And
So,
Mhm.
so who do you think the big bad's gonna be for MK12? We were talking about that like way earlier, but I'd like
I don't
your
care what
opinion
you
on that.
say. I just want Onaga to come back one way or another. I'm sorry.
Onaga,
Onaga would be sick. Like I've seen Onaga before. And I'm just like, dang, that guy looks cool.
Yeah, Onaga should just.
Well, and
badass,
Shao
bro.
Kahn has like an Onaga homage mask. Or at least when I saw that, I was like, dude, did he just take out Onaga and take his mask? When I first saw him in
Did
MK11.
he just kill Onaga?
We did. That's the Shao
The
Kahn
worst
in the
character,
game
one
is
of the
the
worst
one.
characters in the game, just killed Onaga.
Yeah.
I don't
We're
know if
playing
anybody
every guy.
considers him the
Oh,
worst
my.
anymore.
No, I said that's why I corrected myself. One, I just said one of the.
I was
worst.
like, I don't even think that. I think the public opinion on Shao Kahn has shifted entirely. I think a lot of people
mean,
are
hey,
like, oh shit.
I'm so bad against Shao Kahn anyway, so I don't really have any place calling him one of the worst because I just get destroyed by Shao Kahn. I don't know why.
It's
I'm just
because
so
his
bad
design
against
is a noob destroyer. He's like the noob destroyer of the game because he hits so fucking hard. And like if you try to break away, he hits even fucking harder. And unless you know like the nuance of like flawless blocking and what's punishable, like if you don't punish him, like he becomes so like awful to fight because if I make one mistake, he deletes my health bar. And like I can't fucking press because everything is plus on block. So, like, he's just in my face, mashing in my face, and then if I let go a block for 1 second, he fucking deletes my health. Yeah, man, like, a lot of people, if you don't know how to, like, fight that, he seems almost impossible. And then if you do know how to fight it, it's still high risk versus high reward, because if you're wrong, he still deletes your health bar. Like, if he tries to do, like, forward 3 into fucking charge, and you're looking for the flawless block, and he does the charge, and now you're fucking dead. Your health bar is gone. You know, and then if he decides you're like, no, I'm gonna hold block, and then he does forward 3-4, and you miss the flawless block, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I struggle against him so much is because I don't even own Shao Kahn. So I've never really gotten the chance to like see his frame data and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
you
And
can't
like,
practice nothing.
yeah, I don't have any. Like, I don't have any of the Aftermath characters. I
You
don't
should
have any of them.
probably Shao Kahn wasn't an Aftermath character. He was
No,
pre-order.
I know that. I'm just saying that I don't have any of them. The only ones I have are like the Melina Rambo Rain and Combat Pack 1.
I don't think you need the DLC. I think you should buy them just because they're cool and like
Yeah.
they're fun. But
Yeah,
I
I
don't think
was
you need the
I was
DLC
thinking
to be
about-
competitive. I
yeah.
think it's a
I know
misnomer.
that. I'm just saying, like, I don't know anything about those characters because the only thing I can see is just YouTube videos.
Ooh, so I got something interesting, you know, thinking about this Onaga stuff. Onaga is bigger than Shao Kahn. And remember, we were talking about characters that were bigger than the screen or absolutely huge. Onaga is
There you go.
huge compared to Shao Kahn. I don't know if you guys ever watched the Armageddon cutscene.
No, he's huge
The
in the
intro
game.
cutscene. Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's huge in the game. And in Armageddon, it seemed like they abandoned the idea, like when you're actually playing it, where Shao Kahn is actually as big as Onaga. When in the cutscenes, Onaga like a good 2-3 feet above Shao Kahn.
Well,
Mm.
the thing is like Shao Kahn is supposed to be huge, and I was always under the impression that Shao Kahn was the same size as Onaga growing up. So like, and then in the game, if you played Mortal Kombat Unchained, where you could play a Shao Kahn, like he's huge. He's like as big as Onaga.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that
Oh,
cutscene
yeah.
was that cutscene. I mean, it's supposed to be like an attract mode screen, is what those cutscenes are supposed to kind of simulate. So like, it's supposed to just kind of show you what characters were in there. So I wouldn't necessarily consider Shao Kahn's size canon because of that attract mode screen. Or that
That makes
cutscene,
sense.
because that stuff, none of those were ever considered canon. It was just an homage to the old arcade era of like, look at what characters are in this game. You should put a quarter in the machine. And so those little scenes, that's what that was. That's why like fighting games don't have them anymore, because the context is kind of lost. So when you bought a fighting game and you went home, it was like, I want the fucking arcade experience. So they'd have the attract mode screens in there. And then when they stopped making arcade versions, they kept doing those little attract mode cutscenes at the start of the game, because it was like, oh yeah, here you go, this is like really cool. Because I mean, if you played Armageddon, like that cutscene wasn't really in the game. It was just when you booted up the game game, it would play that cutscene
Yeah.
until you push start to go to the menu. That's an attract
It's not
mode
true
screen.
to the story.
Yeah, it's not like when
Like
you
that
start
happens
story
in there.
mode and it goes there. When you start story mode, you fucking play as Taven. So like it was an homage to an attract mode screen, and they don't do it anymore because people like you who never went to arcades growing up, you're not gonna understand the context. You're like, why is there a cutscene? Why is this not in story mode? What the fuck is this?
But it was sick every time I watched it. Gosh, like I'd say the Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon intros were really badass, and whoever put the time and effort to make those did a really good job.
Well,
Because
yeah,
they definitely were attractive. They're an attract screen, you know.
Well, yeah, that's what led to MK9, right? Because people saw all those those little cutscenes, and they kept saying, "Man, it would be cool if they just had a Mortal Kombat movie like this, or if like this was the cutscenes in the story. What if they did a story mode that had these as the cutscenes?" People were begging for that. You guys never go to MK Online, but if you go and look in the archive of their old forum posts, you know, that's the history of our community, and you can see people like, "Oh man, wouldn't it be dope if like the Armageddon intro was like this story mode that had these kind of cutscenes?" So when MK9 came out, that was like their response. It was like, "Oh yeah, y'all dreamed of this? Well, here you go." Because MK9 was literally fan service the game.
That was it was a complete reboot, and I honestly didn't think they were going to go anywhere past MK9 because like MK Armageddon, I mean, though it was before MK versus DC, I felt like they were kind of pushing it with MK9. They said, okay, we got like a little revival here. We can do, you know, what you're saying, that we have a full story mode that actually explains this rather than the attract screen and stuff. But I honestly didn't think they were going to go any farther with that after MK9, being at the first 3 games and everybody hit that nostalgia level. Honestly didn't think they were going to go MKX after that.
Oh no, I knew. As soon as the end of MK9, when Shinnok and Quan Chi come out, you're like, "Oh, they're doing MK4 next." Dude, I was hype as fuck. I was like, "Yo, bring on MK4. I want to see MK4 with the MK9 graphics." It ended up not being MK4 with MK9 graphics. It ended up being MKX. But MKX was basically MK4. They just didn't have Fujin in it. What, Tanya, fucking Quan Chi, Shinnok.
And they have freaking Fujin's model in character, like cutscenes and everything, and they just didn't bother putting him in the game. That was funny.
I was pissed about that, low-key.
Well,
his design in MKX was dope. He had a French braid. I mean, he still has a French braid, but he had the headband and his ass.
Yeah, like you see him, you're like, "Oh, is he gonna be a DLC character?" Like all these DLCs come out, you're like, Fujin. None of them have him. You're just like, dude, you have his model in the game. Why isn't he
They
here?
also have a history of that because they were asking for a vote on Terminator, Fujin, and stuff, and they had those votes in MKX. When in reality, like they ended up in the next game. That's weird to me.
Oh yeah, that happened with Injustice 1, because in Injustice 1, they voted for they wanted to see like Red Hood. Red Hood was the most voted one, and ended up being Zatanna. Yeah, and it ended up being Zatanna. Like Zatanna ended up being in the game, and then Red Hood ended up in Injustice 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair because I mean, with things like that, I feel like maybe they had their DLC planned, and then they just wanted. Maybe they were in the midst, like they had another like 3 people working on the next project, and then they were all like, "Oh man, we need slots for DLC. What do we got?" Maybe they had their vote for a game previous. I don't know.
I mean, maybe.
They planned the DLC. They planned the DLC at the start of development. It's not content that's held back, but it's content that's planned before development. Like, hey, we're going to do X number of DLC characters when we finish main development. So, you know, let's start planning that shit. Because, like, the way video games are made, it's like people don't necessarily have to work together at the same time, right? The art department is going to design the characters and then send it to the graphics people to implement it in the game. But like while the graphics people are working, the art team isn't doing shit. They've already designed that for that project. So then they start work on the next one, and that's kind of how that is. So while the game is being developed, the art team is building the art for the next game. Then they hand that off to the development team. The development team starts developing the actual game, and the art team starts doing art for the next game or the next DLC. And that's kind of how it leapfrogs like that, sort of how the development works. And then after the developers develop it, it goes to the QA team. So it like the game starts here and it leapfrogs from team to team. So that's why like a lot of people, they don't really understand how that shit works, and they're like, they started working on the DLC before the game came out. And it's like, yeah, dude, they planned that shit like 2 years ago. It took them 2 years to fucking make it. They didn't fucking make that shit yesterday.
So, I mean, and so in a sense, when they were getting those voting polls, like who would you like to see as the next DLC character in that current game, they were probably asking like for their plans for the next game.
Yeah.
Because that scared the absolute shit out of me when they asked for like who do you want that as the next DLC in Injustice before we got like Ninja Turtles, Hellboy, and all that shit. They said Spawn in one of them, and I was all like, yeah, that would be cool. He's a superhero, but I really hope they put him in a Mortal Kombat game rather than Injustice, because that's a bloody cartoon.
Yeah, I feel like it was better to wait for the next Mortal Kombat than in Injustice, because you'd have to hold so much of Spawn back for Injustice to work there.
Yeah, but
Because he's like
Batman
such a
versus
brutal
Spawn is
character.
canon. Like Batman versus
is-
Spawn
it
is
is
canon
canon,
in
but it
DC
is
and Image.
It has it in the intro dialogues. Like he saw, like he was talking to Raiden, and he said he saw Batman or whatever.
No,
The
McFarlane said
$1 billion
that Spawn.
Crusader? He's
No.
a
Yeah, the
friend.
$1 billion Crusader.
McFarlane
Like,
said
well,
that
the
every
thing is-
crossover
Name
is
drop.
canon. He said that every crossover is canon. He says he doesn't like
But-
anything not being canon, so everything is canon within Spawn. So Batman is canon. He exists in the Spawn universe.
For sure,
yeah.
but in those comics, I don't know if you guys actually looked up. I look up a lot of comic shit. I love comics.
So do I.
Spawn and Batman actually did not leave as friends. And
Well, no,
stuff.
because
So
he
when
put a
said-
batarang in his fucking face, and that carried over
That-
into the Spawn comics. He kept that slice in his face for a long
Well, that
time.
too, but they ended up essentially at the end of the Batman Spawn comic, they ended up agreeing to disagree. So they left on a good note, but they didn't consider each other friends because Spawn was all like saying the same shit all we are, you're basically you're killing these people, you're giving them a brain aneurysm and stuff. And then Batman's over here like you're a worker from hell, like, F you, essentially.
Don't talk to me. You come from hell.
Exactly. And he's all like, who are you? So yeah, they worked together. They had their conflict. They fought. But then at the end of the day, they left. They said, okay, dude, I get what you're doing here. Like they understood their sides of the fight. Okay, you're fighting for hell. You're a vigilante from Gotham. And these people truly, like, because you have Victor Zsasz who like killed a shit ton of people. But they just kind of left and agreed to disagree. They weren't friends. They weren't friends.
Still canon, though. That's my point.
Yes.
It's
yes.
canon, man.
That's-
It's canon.
that's
They
no
could
joke.
put Spawn. I would want Spawn in Injustice just because it's canon, dude. Like, okay, yeah, Spawn would be toned down, but so is the Joker. Like, the Joker's toned down. The stuff he does in the comics, they don't put that
Hello.
in the games.
I agree with that because he could have been more brutal, but
Because people
and
don't appreciate how
obviously-
fucked up Joker is in the comics. Like, when you start reading DC comics and you're like, wait, the Joker did what? You're like, oh, shit.
Well,
Right,
there's
the Joker
also-
does so much shit. Like Joker does so much.
Well, spoilers for anybody out there who is reading DC comics and listening, DC comics. Joker is actually not one person. Batman.
That's a spoiler
officially
from 5 years ago, though.
That is okay,
It's not
but
really
I
a
still like
spoiler
to
anymore.
throw that out there, because there are some people that might be 5 years lagging in the comics. I don't know, but you have people here. They see Batman, and Batman, he finally has access to this thing called the Mobius chair, which, to those who know the comics, you sit in it, you ask it a question, it will answer your question as truly as possible. Batman sits in that chair. He's all like, he tests it because Batman's a skeptic. He's all like, yeah, bullshit, magic, blah 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 blah. Even though he's seen a shit ton of it, and he goes in the Mobius chair. He says, okay, who killed my parents? The Mobius chair tells him, Joe Chill. Okay, that's accurate. So he gives him a tougher question. He's all like, what's the Joker's true identity? And the chair ominously gives him an answer. There are 3 Jokers. So you could argue in Injustice that that's one of the 3 Jokers, because if I'm recalling right, one of them isn't as brutal. It actually has a little empathy.
I think the whole 3 Jokers thing is kind of stupid. Like, arbitrary nerd shit because DC is a multiverse. There's an infinite number of
It
Jokers.
is.
Like, there's
It
not 3
is.
Jokers. There's never been 3 Jokers. Infinite
There's a
Crisis made it
multiple
clear that
amount.
there was infinite Jokers. So, like, when they were like, there are 3 Jokers, I was like, yeah, like, in this universe. But, like, didn't you show me a fucking alternate universe where Joker's the fucking Yellow Lantern or some shit? Like,
That's fair.
You know,
that's,
like-
that's a fair argument.
There's
I-
no
I-
3
I will-
Isn't
Jokers.
Joker the hero in one of these? You're just
Yeah.
like, wait a minute.
Isn't technically the Batman Who Laughs a version of Joker from another alternate reality?
Yeah,
like,
I'm pretty
what
sure
if
it is.
Batman was the Joker? So, like, yeah, Joker's fucking secret identity is that he's Bruce Wayne. Yeah, that works. I mean, it's not wrong, you know? So, like, when the chair said that, I was like, yeah, that's just, like, dumb shit to get nerds talking. But, like, anybody really paying attention and looks at and understands comic logic is like, yeah, there's always been a lot of Jokers. That
But-
was, like,
oh,
a
you're just like,
cop-out
oh,
answer.
shit.
Well, that's
Of
fair.
course
It was a
when you're talking about
cop-out.
multiverse. That's
wa-
fair when you're talking about the multiverse, but like I was taking it like in the and again, this is the attraction we're talking about here. Is I'm just like, okay, who are those 3 Jokers? What kind of personality? Because I mean, again, it gets us talking and stuff. It's all like, okay, if we're talking about one world, one universe, they're on Earth 2 or whatever. Because I guess the original Detective Comics, like where Superman, the all-American superhero, Batman, the Adam West or whatever, was actually supposed to be Earth 1. So if we're talking about like one Earth, one universe, and there are 3 Jokers, I would put it
But
out of
see,
the possibility
that's
that
the
these
thing
could
that I'm
could have been one of
saying.
the 3.
The thing that I'm saying is that they have, like, it
Mhm.
would be different if there was a plan. Like, they planned to have, like, a payoff, but there's no payoff. There was never one from the
No.
start. It was like, we're gonna
agree with
we're
that.
gonna say there's 3 Jokers, so that way we never have to answer the question of the Joker's identity or backstory. That way we can keep it as ambiguous as we want. Oh, well, it was this Joker, or was it? They can sit there and never have to actually narratively answer any questions, but they can still use it as a plot device. It's lazy writing and it sucks. Like, if they were going somewhere like, okay, yeah, we're going to have this big reveal and it's going to be really cool and we're going to tell this story of, like, the Joker is this, I'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. But it's like, no,
But they
this is so
didn't- they
that way
didn't
we
finish
never
that?
have to, you know? No, they haven't
I don't-
explained.
So,
I
so
don't
they
think so.
so
They're
they
never
never
gonna.
really answered that.
They're never
Yeah,
going to.
So
no,
they
I don't
never
think
really
they've
answered
ever
that.
answered.
No.
I don't think they've ever answered Joker's true identity.
They're
or
never
anything
Then
gonna.
like
I'll go
that.
ahead. I'll go ahead and agree with that then, because three Jokers and stuff. It's all like,
It's just a
I
way
can see
to
how
never
that's
have
lazy
to.
writing.
Yeah, it's a way to
I
never
really
have.
could see that. Yeah, I'm not, and I'm not outside of the universe of taking, from both sides and stuff. It's all like, sure, yeah, they did that, but if there's no payoff, I'll go ahead. I'm gonna step on the same stone as you. Like, if there's no payoff to like revealing this or like how it like makes the whole DC universe
Well, it's
connect
just-
or whatever, it's not relevant. It was like essentially they did that whole panel to be redundant, and that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did the whole thing to be like, wait, what?
It's
They're
so
just
they
like,
don't have
wait
to
a minute.
answer the question. Because, the fans, they're always going to ask. Now they don't ever have to ask. They can just kind of be
Yeah,
like,
because
oh,
they
well.
can just they can just point to that. They
Just
can
be like, oh, yeah.
well,
And then they can
this is
use-
what they said.
They can use it infinitely, too. If a writer wants to do a Joker origin story, they can do it and then treat it like it's canon and still say, oh, but it was only this Joker. Oh,
Dream.
but it could have been this Joker. They could sit there and still kind of just be coy with it and play stupid-ass games instead of actually telling us a decent story with a beginning, middle, and an end. That's why comic books are trash, man. It's not about telling a story. It's about asking enough questions to get you curious about the next issue.
That makes
That's a good
sense as
sum
well.
Up. That's a good sum up. I can't
Yeah.
even lie.
They're shit, dude. That's why manga is killing them, dude. Fucking Demon Slayer. Well, I don't even fucking read that shit. I think that shit looks stupid as fuck. But Demon Slayer outsold the entire Western comics industry. Like, come on. Like, yo, dude, manga is killing it. And it's because, you know what? Demon Slayer, it's not for me. I've never watched it. It doesn't look cool to me. But it has a beginning, middle, and an end. Allegedly. Manga never disappoints. The ending may suck, but it's going to give you one. It's going to answer all the questions. You're going to have,
That's
you
for
may
sure.
not like them. The only one that's
Oh,
not
yeah.
is Berserk, and it's because the guy died. But manga is
Yeah,
going to answer
actually-
all the questions. You know everything about the Naruto universe, how it started, who fucking planted the seed of all life in Naruto. Manga has answers. In fucking Western comics, all they have are questions, and people are tired of fucking reading something that just gives them blue balls. The blue balls that are carried over to the next level, the next issue.
It'll burn them out. It'll burn them out for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, like if you think about it, like I mean, going with these Suicide Squad characters, we're pulling some of these characters out like from the deepest, darkest pits. Like if we think about this is relevant to what you're saying about people are burnt out about questions. If we actually take a relevant character, Peacemaker. Peacemaker was actually not a DC comic, if you guys didn't know that.
Was that the Carlton?
He was a Charleston Comics. Yeah. And they went out of business because they weren't doing very good on their stories and stuff.
He was the inspiration for the comedian for the Watchmen.
Yeah. And the Watchmen, oh, don't get me started on Watchmen. Watchmen was really good. That. I honestly think on the note of the Watchmen, I don't know if you guys read Doomsday Clock or heard about it or anything like that, but I honestly think they should have did the Joker, like if they were going to answer that question with Mobius chair.
I don't like the Watchmen being part of DC. Like, I'm kind of with Alan Moore on that. I don't like them because Watchmen works as a satire of comics, but if the Watchmen are actually in comics, then it kills the satire and it ends up being a meta joke on itself. It ends up being a parody of itself, and it's supposed to be parodying superhero comics. So I don't like Dr. Manhattan like being in the DC universe. I liked him as like an Easter egg when they would do Final Crisis and be like, oh, look at this universe is Dr. Manhattan. It's kind of like a little Easter egg, funny, ha ha ha, but that's not the actual story. When they made it to where like, yeah, dude, the fucking Rorschach, he's a DC character. It's like, oh, okay, because I thought Rorschach was
it kind of ruins the whole thing.
Yeah, Rorschach is supposed to be the satire for
Batman
vigilantes. Like
no, he's the satire of Republicans. He was supposed to be a satirical Republican.
Oh, that goes deep than I thought it did. Because
it's Alan Moore. Alan Moore is about as like bleeding heart liberal as it gets. So a lot of his writing is politically slanted.
Interesting.
And it's funny because Rorschach, he hates that Rorschach is popular. He wanted to make Rorschach the most unlikable character. He wanted people to hate
piece
Rorschach.
Of shit, like, you know?
Yeah, and because so he based him around being the ultimate Republican, and then he was kind of surprised and disappointed that people liked Rorschach because he's like, no, man. Oh, Chad is saying he's not a satire for Republicans. I don't know, man. That's what I've read from an Alan Moore interview, is that he was supposed to be
if it's from Alan Moore, then there you go. You guys got some stuff.
Yeah, but Alan Moore, you can't take serious, dude. He's so full of shit. He says all kinds of dumb shit that then changes his mind like an hour later. And he does it because he's a showman, dude. He wants you to enjoy the show of Alan Moore. So, like, he does say a lot of shit, and he's kind of like Ed Boon. You can't take him, like, for serious. Like, I'm with Chad on that, in that, like, you know, he could have said that and he could have been full of shit when he said it. So, you know.
He could have been like, oh, I was just joking.
It's Alan Moore. You take everything he says with a grain of salt. He's a showman, man. He's a master. He's a master at what he does. He always puts on a show. That's why we love him. But, yeah, like. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to circle around here. I was going to say, off the Overwatch subject, like you were saying that MK11's more like the Overwatch of Mortal Kombat.
Well, it was trying to be Warner Brothers' Overwatch as a recurring,
you know, like
recurring,
seasons.
Something that would give them recurring income.
And you could see that. And honestly, I was asking the other day, I believe it was on stream. It was all like, I made the comment of, I'm surprised they never changed the daily challenges. Like it seemed like they were moving away from that with MK11 because people were backlashing a little bit on that.
No, they doubled down.
I don't think it was clear.
The daily challenges weren't in the game at launch.
Yeah, no, they weren't. Like Combat League wasn't even on at launch, but they always kept it as play 5 matches. It was never like, you know, do 25 uppercuts today or like 100 uppercuts or spill this much blood. I mean, I know they had those below for your permanent, but they never changed it. And I don't think they really capitalized on the Overwatch part. And going into why MK12 could be anything and everything is they could straight up make MK11 not canon. And I believe you said that earlier.
They could do it. They could use MK11's canon to make it not canon. It just works that way.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing, because I'm on the Discord sitting here, I'm seeing Issa post something about Mortal Kombat 12. It reminded me of what we were talking about here. But we could circle this all around MK12. I feel like because
Well, we could
they're
do
not
this.
talking
We could go back and forth all day, it seems, but we are
all
looking
day.
to run out of time. We are at an hour
Mhm.
and a half. Any final
Oh,
thoughts on
already?
MK12? You guys were late.
MK12 is going to be amazing.
Yeah,
Like when
my
it
bad.
does come out, I think it's going to be a huge improvement. I think it's going to be, like you said, they're going to take an MK11 skeleton, and if not, I almost believe MK11 was like a tryout for what they wanted MK12 to look like.
I think MK12 would be a great thing that, like, if they do come out with it, I feel like it would be awesome. It would be a little disappointing for me because I'd be like, I love Injustice. I grew up with the Injustice games. I think Injustice 2 was the first fighting game I genuinely practiced, and then MK11 kind of carried on to that. But if they came out with Mortal Kombat 12, I would like absolutely not be disappointed, and I would definitely try to. I would definitely like it, and I definitely love to see what they do.
What about Mazikeen? What does Mazikeen think?
Well, for me, MK12, bro, as long as I'm able to do some cool shit and keep me occupied
Swagociousness.
for, yeah. Give me more of that MK9, maybe MKX type feel, because MK11 for me is on the flat side, but hopefully on MK12 that player expression will be expounded upon, at least for me.
I just want to like keep playing a Mortal Kombat that's focused on the things that MK11's focused on. Like I don't like I get what Mazzy's saying about them bringing more tech back to like MKX, and I'd be cool with that. But like I don't want to see them put out another game like X where it's just all fucking run in Unga Bunga 50-50, or like Injustice
right.
where it's just run away and shoot. Like I don't like the
Kind
extremes.
of a mess.
Like I like MK11 has a nice dynamic balance. Like there is rushdown, there is zoning. You do it throughout the match. You go from zoning to rushing down depending on, how the match is playing out and what you want to do at the time. Instead of like in MKX, it's like whoever does their 50-50 first wins. And then in
Yeah, I
Injustice,
feel
it's
like
like whoever gets furthest away from their opponent first wins.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a good way to sum it up because like with MK11, it's like what you want to do and how your playstyle fits within that game and more like and instead like with MKX where it's just all you need
MK11
to
is the
be
opposite
rushing
of that.
down.
No, MK11 is absolutely not what you want to do and how you express yourself. It's the exact opposite. MKX is about expressing yourself. MK11 is about what does my opponent want to do and how do I stop them? And that's where people are getting, that's why people don't like MK11 because it's not about thinking about yourself. Everybody just wants to think about and talk about and do things to make themselves look cool and great. MK11 is not about that. MK11 is what is my opponent going to do? How do I outsmart my enemy? It's not how dope can I look and how dope can I be and how can I swag. It's how can I destroy this guy. And unfortunately, a lot of people are really good at showing off, but not a lot of people are really good at destroying their enemy. And MK11 exposes that. Because all the tech in the world, all the flashy combos in the world aren't going to matter if I make the read on you and just do a down 2 uppercut and take all of your fucking health with one button.
That is a better way of
Yeah.
seeing it. Oh, yeah, because you mentioned that in one of your videos that I forgot what the title was, but I do remember you mentioned something along those lines in that video.
Yeah, our game, it gets a bad rep. But we're about to start the Beef Set League here soon. So I'm going to thank you guys for stopping by. Shout outs to your social medias if you want to give shout outs real quick.
I don't have anything besides Instagram, so unless you want to like, and it doesn't really have anything to do with fighting games. So if you just want to b.m.r_15, that's all I can really say. You don't want to like, that's all I have for socials.
Okay, well, I just have Twitter, and it's just at Mazikane Ashram, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'll probably
This
work on a
is
YouTube channel.
And this is the one and only Toad Savage. You can catch me on Twitch fighting in the Trash Talk Temple, or you can follow my Twitch or YouTube. Thank you.
Well, there we go. And then those of you following us on twitch.tv/SoCalHoneyBadger, you can check us live there. But if you're watching us afterwards, like, comment, subscribe on whatever platform you're finding this on. I don't know, man. We're going to spread the word, yo. But thank you guys for spending some time, and we'll see y'all with the next Trash Kast.
And give them all of your money for freedom.
All of it.
But in the name of freedom.
In the name of freedom.